Welcome to the BCUC podcast. We're so glad you're tuning in today, and we really hope you enjoy this message.
We have two Bible readings today. The first one is from Isaiah 60, verses 1 to 6. Arise, shine, for your light has come. The glory of the Lord has risen upon you. For darkness shall cover the earth, and thick darkness the peoples, but the Lord will arise upon you, and his glory will appear over you. Nations shall come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn. Lift up your eyes and look around. They all gather together, they come to you. Your sons shall come from far away, and your daughters shall be carried in their mother's arms. Then you shall see and be radiant. Your heart shall thrill and rejoice, because the abundance of the sea shall be brought to you. The wealth of the nations shall come to you. A multitude of camels shall cover you. The young camels of Midian and Ephraim and those from Sheba shall come. They shall bring gold and frankincense, and shall proclaim the praise of the Lord.
Today's second Bible reading is from Matthew chapter 2. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, magi came from the east to Jerusalem, asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star in the east and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet. And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the Magi and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word, so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen in the east, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him the gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return back to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. This is the word of the Lord.
Arise, shine, your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. In recent weeks, much has been said about darkness and light. In the wake of the terrorist attack in Bondi during the Jewish Festival of Lights, Hanukkah, we were all encouraged to light a candle and place it in a window as an act of solidarity, remembrance, and a witness to the power of light driving out darkness. Sadly, both before and after this event, we see that when tragedies occur around the world, candles are placed as a memorial to those who have died. We've seen this just in the last few days after the Swiss ski resort fire on New Year's Eve. The symbols of light and darkness are universally known and understood across cultures, languages, and religions, it seems. In a sense, it's part of our kind of human psyche, it seems, even from birth. I know I was afraid of the dark as a child. Anyone else afraid of the dark as a child? I've never heard of a child being afraid of the light. There are probably some business moguls and politicians who might be afraid of the light, but the literal and symbolic meaning of light and darkness connect universally, and that's why they're so powerful. The Greek word for epiphany means manifestation or to reveal, to make known. The light goes on, an aha moment, when something that's been unclear is suddenly revealed. What has been in the dark is illuminated. The symbol of the star, so central to the story of the Magi visiting the infant Jesus, a bright light that shines in the darkness of the night sky and draws strangers to the place of illumination, of epiphany. The prophecy from Isaiah develops this image at length after the opening words we've been echoing today. Arise, shine, your light has come. Light has come to us, for us, and now we are the light. To reflect that light in our world. As I said earlier, Epiphany marks the end of the 12 days of Christmas, the season of wonder and welcome for the Christ child. The season of gatherings and gift-giving concludes with the visit of the Magi. Not told in Luke's birth narrative, this story forms a key part of our understanding of the Christmas story. Today I'm going to explore two key themes from our readings for Epiphany and what is illuminated, I think, through these readings from Isaiah and Matthew. The first thing I'm going to explore is how God's light breaks through the barriers that we build to divide us. And the second is the way God became one of us, that upends all earthly understanding of power and kingship. The Christmas story told by Matthew differs greatly from Luke's story. There are no shepherds except for the one who has come to shepherd all the people of God. But there are magi. Magi are not kings, as we have just sung. I love that Christmas carol, though. It's so good. Magi referred to a priestly group in ancient Persia and Babylon, roughly where modern-day Iraq is found today. Their work combined elements of astrology, astronomy, and dreams. Wise men or sages is a more accurate interpretation than kings. Now, we don't actually know if there were 3 magi. We know that they brought 3 gifts, and they're all over here on the communion table if you want to have a look later. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And so we assume that there were 3 of them, but there could have been 2, there could have been 12, there could have been 20. What is clear, though, is their identity. They were Gentiles. They were non-Jews. They may have connected the star's appearance to a Jewish king because they had contact with Jews who were still in Babylon, even after the end of the exile. But in Matthew, the most Jewish of all the Gospels, it's a critical point. Outsiders have come to see the promised Messiah. Now, for us gathered here all these years later, the idea that the God of Israel is now the God of the Gentiles too is not a big deal. After all, we are Gentiles. We are non-Jews. But for Matthew's original readers, it was a huge deal. I think what is revealed to us in this reading and our reading from the prophet Isaiah is that God continues to break down our barriers. Human nature, if we look around the world, and certainly throughout history, is to divide ourselves into us and them, along whatever lines we find, nation against nation, ideology against ideology, or political affiliations. We've seen further evidence of this overnight with the US strikes in Venezuela. And we don't just need to look out there and around the world to see these divisions. It's also within us. However good and faithful we are, it seems that human nature is to see those who are different to us as other. We do it in all sorts of ways. You can think of all the isms that we have in our world now. We do it with generations. We see it in the workplace. We make assumptions. Baby boomers or Gen Xers like me, we make assumptions about, say, Gen Z, who are the newest people, young people in our workplaces. Oh, we say they're soft. They don't know how to work hard. Things like that. Sadly, we see it in our church too, our broad church, which is wonderful in all sorts of ways. But we do it there as well, when our theological perspectives are different, where the lens through which we read the Bible or experience the world is different. We put distance between ourselves and those who don't think and believe quite the way we do. They are others. I think our response to those who are different comes from fear. We fear that which is different. It makes us uncomfortable. And let's face it, we don't want to be uncomfortable. That's quite a natural way of being. Some of you might remember, I'm really showing my generation here, the Christmas song, Do They Know It's Christmas? It was released in 1984. I don't know if anyone, you might have heard it again just recently at Christmas time. There's a few people I can see nodding, yes. It was Band Aid. It was a group of pop and rock musicians from the UK to raise money for famine relief in Ethiopia. And this was followed by the Live Aid concerts in 1985 in the UK, in the US, and there was even one in Australia. Bob Geldof from the Boomtown Rats led the cause. He was moved after he had seen a news report on the famine in Ethiopia to do something to make a difference. Now, aid agencies did not want to work with Bob Geldof, this brash, loud, ignorant rock star who knew nothing about aid and what it took to deliver it appropriately in Africa. He didn't want to just send money though, he wanted to be involved. So these groups had to overcome their differences in order to achieve their purpose. They weren't necessarily comfortable and harmonious in the way they did it, but they saw what they needed to do was more important than the differences that divided them. 20 years after Live Aid in 2005, you might remember the Make Poverty History campaign. I know we all had bracelet thingies, the rubber bracelets, Make Poverty History. Anyone remember that? 2005? It was big. It was big around the world. It was a campaign, again led by Bob Geldof, as well as Bono from U2 and others. And this effort by the Make Poverty History campaign led to the G8, the most powerful economies in the world, cancelling the debt of the poorest nations in the world and pledging billions in aid. It was remarkable. I'm sharing all this because I recently watched a documentary about these events, and it was amazing to see how they made this huge difference in the world. But it's also interesting to watch the prejudices revealed and the barriers that broke down over time. There was a meeting between Bono of U2, biggest rock band in the world, certainly at the time, and he met President George W. Bush. From totally different political persuasions, different generations, different cultural groups. Previously, they would never have found themselves in the same room together, but they sat down and talked about how they could address the darkness of poverty in the world. When I think about this remarkable meeting of minds across the divisions of culture, politics and generations, I hear the prophet Isaiah, "Lift up your eyes and look around. They all gather together and come to you. Nations shall come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn. God will have none of our human divisions. And when the first people to recognize Jesus for who he really is are pagan astrologers from the vicinity of Iraq, you know that God is not going to respect any of our categories of who does and doesn't belong. Where the darkness of our prejudice and divisiveness settles in, the light of God's love bursts forth, and we have to welcome it and embrace it, even though it is uncomfortable and downright challenging. And it's an ongoing challenge, not something we do just once and say, yes, I'm going to love everybody and welcome everyone and seek to get along. Yes, we certainly should say that. But we are all the time facing these new little things that bubble up within us that seek to divide us from others. How can I see the light of God's love in those with whom I disagree? Or in those who are just so different from me that I can't make any sense of who they are or why they do the things they do? As the light of Epiphany breaks in again this year, I encourage us all to be open to this challenge. Be curious, not judgmental. Seek to listen, to understand. Allow the light to break through the darkness of division. The second point of illumination that I want to bring to us this morning is the nature of God's power and how kingship is expressed in Jesus. The people of Israel expected a mighty king to come and sweep away the worldly rulers and be installed on the throne of Israel, as the kings of old had been, kings of David's line, with all the trappings of wealth, power, and influence. But God upturned their expectations and came in the most vulnerable form. A baby born to poor parents in a shed in the backwater of Bethlehem. What a shocking way for God to come, in simplicity and homelessness, recognised not by his own people, but by outsiders. And even for us now, we find it shocking that the way God saves us is through the most humble and vulnerable means. We keep wanting and expecting God to act in big, powerful ways that no opposition on earth can resist. Even when we try to find the words to describe God, we begin with things like omnipotent and almighty, all-powerful. We want God to deal with evil. We want God to wipe out the oppressors and deal out justice for all in one great sweep of his hands. The magi themselves were no doubt expecting to see a vision of power and wealth and influence. Where did they go first, seeking the newborn Messiah? The palace, of course. That's surely where rulers are born. That's where God would appear. But Christ comes in the most surprising of ways. We yearn for a powerful sign, yet we get a quiet word spoken through a friend. We wish for our destinies to be written in the stars, clear for us to see. Where am I going, God? Yet it is in the going on the journey day by day with Jesus, reading the Bible, praying, reflecting, working, seeking to be faithful. It is in that we discover who God is forming us to be. I wonder what these wise men thought about this king born in a stable. We don't get a lot from our reading in Matthew's Gospel, but it tells us that when the star stopped over the place where Jesus lay, the magi were overwhelmed with joy and entered in and knelt down and paid him homage. After that sacred encounter, they were warned in a dream not to return to Herod. They clearly had revealed to them that this king in a manger throne was unlike any king that had come before, and his power was unlike any earthly king. Jesus' power bringing healing rather than punishment, compassion rather than mocking, power not threatened by another's potential, but rather resting in humility and grace. The wise ones, after encountering the Christ child, discerned just why Herod reacted with fear when they had asked, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews?" This child, this king, would turn the world's notions of power and authority upside down. He was a real threat to the earthly power of Herod, power that ruled with an iron fist and was marked by jealousy and paranoia, sentencing to death anyone who threatened him, whether the threat was real or imagined. And we see the darkness of the power unleashed in terror if we read just a little bit further in chapter 2 of Matthew's Gospel, where Herod orders the massacre of all children under the age of 2 in and around Bethlehem, in an effort to thwart this newborn king. His successor, his son, also King Herod, was ultimately able to achieve what his father could not, condemning Jesus to death on the cross 33 years later in Jerusalem. And yet the power of God could not be thwarted, even in death on the cross. And those of us who know this story know that 3 days later, after the crucifixion, Jesus rose again, so that we all might experience life, forgiven and made whole by God's love for us. For as Paul tells us in 2 Corinthians, God's power is made perfect in weakness. Arise, shine, for your light has come. This epiphany goes on and on. We are continually surprised and even disturbed as God's ways are brought to light, overcoming the darkness of divisions and the darkness of the power of this world. What has been revealed to us today? The upside down kingdom of God, where the most small, fragile of life is king of all the world, bringing together all nations and all peoples, indeed all creation for renewal and recreation. The glory of the Lord has risen upon us and draws us into the light of his love. We are called to live God's light in our church, in our families, in our communities, and of course in our world. How will we reveal the love and grace of God this year as a church? What shall we illuminate for those around us? You shall see and be radiant. Your hearts shall thrill and rejoice. May it be so as we seek to live the light of God's love day by day in our world. Amen.
Thank you for listening. We really hope you were inspired by today's message. You can also find us on YouTube and the Burnside City Uniting Church website.